This morning on Media and Society, we take a look at how the use of artificial intelligence has quickly made its way into our everyday lives in both negative and positive ways. Well, hello and welcome to Media and Society. I'm your host, Naledi Muleo. Of course, this is the show where we take a look at the intersection between the media and society. Now, this show really is not complete without your input. So over the next hour, feel free to give us a call on 011-714-0661 or 0662. Let's get into our discussion for this morning. While AI has paved the way for significant advancement, the problem and the challenge is that it is also increasingly being used for harm. The emergence of deepfake technology has opened up a frightening new dimension in the web-based misinformation network that contributes to the widespread chaos witnessed globally in recent years. This is now hitting very close to home. For us here as SABC employees have also become targets in deepfake adverts across social media. Take a look at this.
Breaking news. Elon Musk's project has alarmed the government and major banks. He has introduced a new secret investment that has made hundreds of people very rich. Last week, he appeared in public and announced his new project, which, according to him, can turn anyone into a millionaire within 5 to 6 months without any difficulties and with minimal investment of $250. The innovative businessman urged everyone to seize this incredible opportunity. And of course, a few minutes after the interview ended, the government called and requested that the interview not be broadcast, but it was too late.
I am providing access to my platform for my fellow countrymen, where I come from. To get the system up and running, a minimum investment of $250 is required. This is the minimum amount at which the system will start making profitable trades in the stock and cryptocurrency markets. To gain access, you need to register on the official website, wait for a manager's call who will assist you in the subsequent steps, including account funding and program setup.
No longer need to work. Such a statement was made by Elon Musk as he opens access to his new development, which generates money automatically using artificial intelligence as a trader.
I am providing access to my platform for my fellow countrymen, where I come from. To get the system up and running, a minimum investment of 4,700 Rand is required. This is the minimum amount at which the system will start making profitable trades in the stock and cryptocurrency markets. To gain access, you need to register on the official website, wait for a manager's call who will assist you in the subsequent steps, including account funding and program setup.
So those visuals, those videos, how legitimate are they? Are you one of those people who come across a video like that and easily believe what you have just watched, right? That an anchor at SABC News, Francis, is then promoting investment into an investment project by Elon Musk. Is it something that you would believe in? This is the discussion we're having this morning on Media and Society. And to have that discussion, I'm joined in studio by Lungile Msomi, who is a journalist at IT Web. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's really good to have you with us, Dr. Nomalanga Mashinini, Senior Lecturer at the School of Law at Wits University. Thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
We're also joined via Teams by Spumelele Zondi, who is SABC Network producer and presenter. Spumelele, good morning to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Naledi. Thank you very much for inviting me.
We appreciate it. And Mr. Pavel Goldman, who is the head of artificial intelligence and machine learning at SAMSUB in London. Mr. Goldman, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
I'm going to start with you, Spumelele, because you are within the SABC, and essentially what Network does is, it is our show here at the SABC that looks at what social media and technology does on a daily basis. Explain to the viewers, if you will, the clip that we just watched. What was that?
All right, so basically what it is that a deep fake was used. So you see the Francis's face, you hear Francis's voice, and then you hear Elon Musk, and you see Elon Musk speaking. It appears as if it's them actually giving this information, but machines were essentially used in order to create all of this. Because if you look closely, you can actually hear that the voices are a bit computerized, and it's only if you watch closely that that you'll see that especially Francis's mouth is sort of out of sync with the voice that's giving that information. But it all requires a closer look. So that's basically what you saw. It's machines, it's computers being used to create something that is false to seem as if it is true, and for you to see a news anchor giving information that's telling you to invest as if it is true, and you see a billionaire of a multinational again giving you views about how you can invest this money. But machines were pretty much used to create all of this, and it really requires a very close look for you to suss it out.
Yeah, you know, part of the thing is that there's so much terminology and jargon that is used here, and perhaps we need to really go back to that level, right? And Pavel Goldman, I'm going to come to you and say, how do you explain to someone, you know, a 4-year-old, for instance, what a deep fake actually is?
Well, I would say that a deepfake is just false face. So it's not a real person. It's the technology that tries to trick a person to believe that somebody who is not a real person is selling or making you do something. So it's basically it.
I mean, it's a difficult one to explain. I mean, and thank you for giving it a shot, Goldman. I'm gonna bring it to you, Lungile, and say, explain to the average South African what a deep fake is.
So, a deepfake, in all terms and purposes, is a fake video. So what the people who produce these videos, they'll put in old videos that already exist on the internet of, for example, your Elon Musk or a credible news journalist like Francis, and they'll put it into a machine. So we call it machine learning. So the machine will learn how Elon Musk speaks, how he pronounces certain words, and will learn how Francis pronounces certain words as well. And then you can take that and it will produce whatever sort of video you want using artificial intelligence. So if you explain it to someone who doesn't know what large language models are, what artificial intelligence is, it's basically taking someone's likeness and using it for misinformation or the spreading of misinformation.
Yeah, it's frightening.
It is.
It's frightening because it says that just by virtue of my face being online, right, machines can essentially then manipulate it, and Naledi Moleo is then seen on Facebook selling an investment product that she's not actually a part of, right? Can we talk a little bit about how easy and how frequently people actually believe these clips and how prominent they actually are, Dr. Mashinini?
It's true. We've seen this sort of thing even in the USA, where for a brief moment, Congresswoman Stefanik had a picture of her turned into a deep fake. It was made to seem like she's throwing a middle finger at the people. And for hours, it went on social media, going viral, and people believed it up until it was later disproved the next day. But it is very easy for people to believe this because it's unlike a caricature or an artist's work, you know, because in this case, you're dealing with something that is trying to indeed make it look real. It's deceptive by nature.
And people are believing it.
Yes, because also people are not aware of deepfakes as much as...
Can we talk about what we've seen, particularly here in South Africa, why deepfakes are being used, particularly here in South Africa, where Francis, for instance, I mean, someone asked me, you know, wait, is Francis doing something with Elon Musk? And genuinely believed that this was a real opportunity. This is in a country where people are desperate for opportunity.
It's true. People are desperate for money. People are desperate for jobs. Also, we rely heavily on media to confirm truth when we are asking questions. And that's why someone who's in the media would be an easy target, even politicians. But mostly women and children are also easy targets of deepfakes.
Frequency, Lungile?
I'd say it's becoming quite more and more frequent, especially here in South Africa. I think especially the criminals who do this, they are very much aware of how uneducated most of our population is about these sort of technological advancements. So using someone who does have a credible reputation, like Francis, like Elon Musk, is, of course we know is a successful businessman, it's easy for anyone to sort of believe, oh, if I put in this amount of money, Elon Musk is going to help me better my life. So I think that's why we're seeing it become more and more prevalent. And I think heading into what is a busy election period, we're probably going to see a little bit more of that, especially trying to convince, the younger generation to come and join certain parties. We might see some deepfakes of our president, who knows?
Now that is even scarier, right? Pavel, can we talk a little bit about some of the examples where we've seen deepfakes being used really across the world, and you've seen them as particularly dangerous, frightening moments where you've seen deepfakes being used?
Yeah, of course. I must say that the examples that you showed, yet there are some certain artifacts, so you can you can see that if you take a really, really close look, you will see that it's obviously deepfake. But they're very good. So the quality was good, and then you don't pay attention, then you will fall for that. But what I would like to tell you that there are the deepfakes that you showed is it's called a media deepfake. So it's it can be corrupted for just one person, just one specific purpose. But I must say that the deepfakes that we at Thumbs Up battle with, it's mostly about when a person tries to trick usually it's financial institutions or banks or marketing platforms. They try to create fake accounts at scale, of hundreds of thousands of users. Then they will be using these accounts to trick other people. So it's another problem. And the thing is, I would say that 2 years or even a year before, mostly the process, they tried to do not use a deepfake, but they used, for instance, a printed out images, or we call it screen recapture, when you just play back a video of another person and just trying to pretend you are not yourself. But in the past year, I would say it's 5 times in certain industries. The deepfake that we see rose maybe 5 times. So I would say that mostly it is the biggest type of fraud across verifications, across when trying to actually identify yourself. And also there is another thing. It's used for not for just media deepfakes, but also it's the terminology is called non-consensual porn creation.
Yeah.
And it is also a problem, unfortunately.
That's frightening, because what you just said, non-consensual porn creation. So you're telling me that if someone decides to take a machine and put Dr. Mashinini's face on it, they could create porn with her face based on artificial intelligence. What are we doing then from a legislative point of view, Pavel? I mean, where are the examples of what from across the globe, examples that you have where, there's some kind of legislating of what AI actually can do? Pavel? Okay, Pavel's frozen. So I'm going to bring that question to Zondi, actually. As Pumelele, do we have any sort of legislation in South Africa that speaks to this very frightening issue?
Well, no, we have legislation that deals with all kinds of misinformation and online, but we don't have one that deals with specifically with deep fakes, simply because this is very new technology that hadn't been widely used in South Africa. And this is often the danger with new technology, right? The fact that people or those that use and create technology are often ahead of governments, and governments often has to play catch up very quickly on how to circumvent around things and how to arrest a lot of it.
Yeah, you see, and that's the issue. So the speed at which government needs to work then to legislate against, fast-moving technology like AI, and what deepfakes can actually do is going to be a big issue, right? I mean, the deepfake that we watched with Francis earlier, for instance, is very convincing. We know that a year from now, the technology will get better and it will be even more convincing, right?
But I think as South Africa, we should not despair, because we also do have a mixed legal system where you can tap into different legal rules in common law, in other legislation, such as the recent Cybercrimes Act, where there could be an indirect way to actually seek remedy when your image is used in a deepfake.
Yeah.
We may not have an AI legislation like the EU currently, but there is hope that there is a way to remedy the problem based on existing rules. And in future, I do think South Africa will actually come up with its own AI regulation system, given that even when the EU started having the GDPR, we followed suit with POPI. Now we're going to probably do the same with the AI legislation.
You're very optimistic. Do you agree with her?
I definitely agree. I think one of the advantages we have in South Africa with being behind in terms of regulating technology is that we can almost regulate ahead instead of regulating for now. So if as technology gets better, our regulations can meet that sort of level. Instead of thinking for the now, we can start thinking for the future.
Yeah.
So we can build on what we have, which is POPI. We can build on that and include artificial intelligence. So I think there is cause for concern, but if our government can act quick enough, then we should be quite okay with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I want to open up the lines, right? So give us a call. The number is 011-714-0661. And this is what we're talking about. Have you fallen prey to online scams that for the most part looked very, very legitimate, right? For instance, I, a news anchor at the SABC News, know that many multiple pages have been opened with my face, with my liking, and with my branding, where essentially I am then selling a Forex product or such, right? So when you see those kind of accounts, how convinced are you of their validity? Give us a call on 011-714-0661. And perhaps what we've done, Pavel, I'm going to bring you back in here. Perhaps what we've done is we focused just on deep fakes, but we talk about people's likeness being used a lot of the time, not necessarily with the technology of AI, but certainly just their likeness being used on social media, how big of a problem that has become, particularly where we're seeing scams being run.
Yeah, but before that, I must comment on the regulation, and I must say that it's a very good thing that the regulation in South Africa is a little behind, because there are still lots of mismatch, even at the, for instance, like EU regulations with like maybe 4 or 3 years of negotiations, because like a year or 2 years before, when everything started, there was no such a rise of deepfakes, so it was not as big a threat as it is now. So now regulations also in the European Union also lags a little bit behind. So, for instance, the tools for deepfake creations, they are not labeled as high risk because they were not a threat a year ago. And now you can, create a deepfake, so it certainly has to be labeled as a high risk, and then there's certain, laws, rules for transparency must be implemented. So this was a very good point made before.
Yeah.
But sorry, going back to you.
Sure, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. So going back to the media. I must say that from the deepfake standpoint, the thing is that if you are talking about detection, and I must say that in my opinion, the platforms, the problem is that they have to actually detect deepfakes. The only way I can't, but the platform where it is hosted, it can, because it can see who has uploaded the video. It has actually it's easier for the platform to do a deeper check. So for it's my opinion, it's their responsibility to actually care for what is posted, and then can I detect a deepfake or not? But I must say that we talked a little bit about the deepfakes, and in our area, deepfake is specifically a face video, so of a person. But in the media or the social network, the thing is that the deepfakes are not just faces or persons. Just another video, and this is another problem, because you all know that in the past maybe 6 months, a lot has been developed in the area of generative AI. So you can actually craft lots of very convincing videos or images about everything. And this combined with deepfake, like faces of familiar persons, this of course can pose a deeper threat. And the thing is that it is way harder to detect, because the domain is so big. So you actually have to look for many clues, even if this is just not just a face of a person.
Okay, but
I can't say because sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to step in because you're making an interesting point. You're saying the platform should be able to detect the defect, right? So Facebook, for instance, should be able to detect that video of Francis was digitally made and that was not her promoting an investment into something that Elon Musk is doing. But the video was available. So the system isn't working, correct?
Yeah, I think it is. It can be very hard to detect. It's true. It will. I'm pretty sure that it will not be 100% accurate. It's an arm race. So whenever I have a very good detection tools, there will always be a person, a real actor that tries to create even better deepfake, and this will remain. I think this is a matter of life. Going back to the platform, for instance, in Chinese regulations, a deepfake must be labeled as a deepfake. But the thing is that the platform can be regulated. It will be compliant. It will be compliant in the end. This is for sure. But the person who created deepfakes for malicious purposes, they do not have. Usually, they do not comply because they are criminals. And there's a problem. So it's very hard to regulate. You can regulate companies, but you can't regulate criminals and fraudsters. And this is the problem. That's why, for instance, platform. Yeah, it
just sounds counterintuitive to me, because what you're saying is a deepfake should be labeled as a deepfake, but the purpose of creating a deepfake is to essentially deceive people. We're going to continue this discussion, of course. Let's take a short break, though, and we'll continue the discussion because we need to talk about the impact these AI-generated videos have on you as a desperate South African who wants to make money. How do you figure out what's real and what isn't? We're back in a moment. Welcome back. Well, the SABC's Group Executive for News and Current Affairs is very concerned about how this may affect the viewers' trust in the broadcaster's brand. And this is what he had to say about the issue of news anchors being used to promote investments in deepfakes.
The most concerning aspect of it is the fact that they are using my colleagues' faces and voices, knowing that because they are from an institution or a broadcaster with some credibility where there is public trust. And my worry is one is that anything that dents that public trust is affecting us as SABC News, is affecting the anchors who are seen as leading journalists, who are seen as whatever they express, that there should be some legitimacy to it. And the most worrying thing, I think, is the fact that we are in the era where we want to see what is the good and the most benefiting about artificial intelligence. But the worries one is that if artificial intelligence is going to be abused this way, then it really makes people to be skeptical, especially given the fact that there will be the good and the positives that we need to embrace and accept. And look, as SABC News is that it's worrying because, for the first time when it happens with one of our anchors on Morning Live, it's something that we investigated. And the most difficult thing is the inability to trace the roots and the source. And I think that's the most dangerous thing because they keep on popping up and they are using or abusing the vulnerability of members of the public who are desperate to invest and are seeing the most credible public figures like yourself, Elon Musk and other colleagues, and they think this should be true. And my worry is one is that also it dents our credibility because our brand is something that as a public broadcaster, something that people trust. We do not propagate or we are not agencies or agents of any project or any institution that really says you must invest in this product or that product. We are in the business of news, and what we do is based on credibility, on accuracy, on seeking the truth, and on the trust that we have built throughout the years between us and the public. And we would want to restore that trust to say some of these videos that you see where our employees or anyone associated with us saying that invest in that or that, it's not our policy, and it's against our editorial policy to call for people to invest in such schemes.
Well, we continue our conversation here in studio, and of course, still joined by Lungile Msomi, who is a journalist at IT Web, Dr. Nomalanga Mashinini, a senior lecturer at the School of Law at Wits University, and via Teams we're joined by Siphumelele Zondi, SABC News presenter and producer for Network, as well as Pavel Goldman, who is the head of artificial intelligence and machine learning at SAMSUB in London, of course. So let's come back to you, Siphumelele, because you have essentially watched all of this play out within the SABC, right? I mean, your thoughts on the impact that this could have and whether or not we're going to be seeing more and more of this kind of content being created?
The impact is basically on the trust on news and on information and on journalists. Already this had been impacted by social media, right? And a lot of misinformation being peddled on social media. And trust on news and journalists had come under scrutiny, especially in the past, where we even saw mistakes being made by journalists themselves. Like I think of a case of hashtag RIP Gamo, which ended up on the front page of the Star a couple of years ago, which was a story that was a trending hashtag on social media that was unverified. But now when you then start to see the faces of your trusted news anchors and your trusted journalists giving you what seems to be credible information, and it actually isn't, it's false information, that's going to impact on the trust. And this actually, what this requires is for the news media fraternity, especially organizations that deal with journalists, to then embark on campaigns that educates people about how you can suss all of this out and how you can figure out that it's false information, it's a deep fake, and how you can actually spot it. It requires education that comes from the news fraternity itself, because there had been impact on the industry itself that has been caused by the use of other technology platforms, and this is now adding to all of that and impacting on the trust that people already could have felt was diminishing on news media and on journalists because of false information that had appeared online, and sometimes the mistakes that had been made as well by the news fraternity.
Yeah, and you see, the mistrust in mainstream media is very, very dangerous. So what we've done, we've tried to find a voice that can speak to how to spot a deep fake or content online that is disingenuous. Take a look at this.
It's really around how do we actually verify information, and how do we verify misinformation, or how do we verify the single source of truth, right? And this is such a pivotal role that I think media can play. So we've seen some interesting plays across different media houses, from simple things like a verification badge or a simple watermark sort of scenario that really depicts to, is it content that is created by humans versus is it actually created by AI? You know, let's start with just simple things of a tone. So, you know, really look out for the voice in a message and really pay attention to, is it as authentic? Or is it not as authentic? If you get an initial feel that something's not right, simply just don't engage. That's the first. So voice. The second is from an image perspective, really look to tell if the image is very still-like. So, you know, if that is very much the case, then that's generally a good indication that it is AI generated. You know, other sort of aspects that you can look out for is make sure that you verify the links, right? Don't click on something. You know, if you receive an email, make sure that the email address that you receive it from is actually legitimate itself. You know, you've got to take your due necessary process, you know, from a user perspective, and take back that control, and make sure as well, whatever information you're actually sharing on your web or on any sort of, you know, digital platform, you actually are aware what you're sharing at any given point in time. So things like a proper email address, we generally know, you know, companies have either a .co.za at the end of it with their sort of company name in the middle. So that should be like a standard. You know, also, if you're not sure of their domain or their email domain, Google it, right? Go and have a look if their email address says info@sabc.co.za as an example. Then you compare it to that particular email address that you're then seeing as one example. The second would be, people that request for any personal information, just simply never engage, never divulge, whether it is from a bank, whether it is from an insurance company, a telco, literally anyone.
Yeah. Essentially, we're being told, and Lungile, I'm going to come back to you, we're being told to be intuitive with the content that we watch. That's the instruction there.
Yeah. Which is the unfortunate truth. You do have to be quite careful with what you do consume. I know it mentioned earlier that the platforms are the ones that should be really labeling these videos as deepfakes or as original. And I know YouTube last week only recently just started saying they're going to put a label when a video is synthetic, which is what they call AI-generated videos. And Facebook, since 2020, has banned deepfakes from its platform. So there are platforms that are doing the job, but as normal, ordinary citizens, we also have to be very careful. With the SABC video, once you click on the link, it took you to a website that looks almost identical to the SABC official website. But if you look at the URL, that's where you see the
URL
difference.
is right at the top of the screen.
At the top, which is the address.
So that's where the HTTP, the www. We need to say these things.
Yes, we do need to say these things. That's the difference. That's when you see that, oh, this is not SABC, now it says something else. So this is where you sort of need to educate the public. Without education, we're not going to be able to counteract all of these deepfakes and all these AI-generated content that exists all over the internet.
Yeah, Pavel spoke before the ad break and he made an interesting point. And he talked about how where you do have a deep fake, the platform should say it's a deep fake. And I thought, well, that sounds almost backward, right? Because a deep fake is essentially wanting to deceive you. So why would it declare that it's a deep fake? And this is where it becomes difficult to say, well, what should these platforms be doing, right?
It is difficult because if you think about the regulation of content platforms all over the world, there is a general approach to grant immunity to those platforms because liability should fall by the users who post nefarious deepfakes. And ultimately, it is all about protecting the right to freedom of speech or the right to freedom of expression in the South African context. Because if platforms start heavily regulating what people post, then we run the risk of having censorship on social media. So in trying to balance this, the democratic and constitutional values, we need to understand that in as much as deepfakes are somewhat dangerous, there needs to be some form of protection for our democracy and the very values that it's founded upon, which is one of them, freedom of expression.
That sounds like a very tough balancing act.
It is. I would advise users on a practical note to also remember the old saying that the eyes are the window to the soul. When you look at a deepfake video, look at the eyes. When you watch a video,
let's say a video, right?
Yes, look at the eyes.
Because if it's a deepfake, I won't know. So when I look at the video,
look at the eyes. Because that is one of the elements that deepfake technology has not really mastered at this stage. The eyes are telling how they're moving, whether they are still or not, of whether this could be potentially a fake video or not. It's much harder when you're dealing with audio deepfakes because deepfakes come in different forms, even audio. And this is why banks are starting to cancel their audio verification services because there is the risk that someone may create a deepfake audio and use it to unlock your banking account.
Yeah, I want to stay with you, Dr. Mashinini, because, and I want to speak about a personal experience of my own, right? Because we've talked about Francis, and this is really about SABC personalities a lot of the time also being used about this. So I can bring it back home. There are Facebook and Instagram accounts that have my face on them. And I want to tell the viewers, I am not selling Forex. I am not. But there are accounts that have been set up with my name and face, right? And I am selling Forex products, right? What I found is that I can't access those pages because they've even blocked me off. So what does that individual whose likeness is being used, what do they do?
So I heavily advocate, even on my own podcast, for image rights protection. And this is something that I think is very important for people to know about, because something like your case is you could use image rights protection or even privacy POPI as well to go after the content platform, so it's like Facebook, like Instagram, and say, I need access to know who owns these accounts because I need to go and claim against those people and to stop them from actually using my likeness. And this is why you see social media platforms coming up with paid verification services, so that no one else can create that fake account about you if you already have a verification service. Because remember, verification services used to be only for people with a lot of viewers, a lot of followers. But now anyone can pay for that, or especially on platforms like Instagram and so forth. We are moving to a stage where it is becoming more and more important for platforms to protect our interests in privacy and identity rights. And this is why I say your claim or your first step is to go to the content platform and say, I need to know who created these. Because when you create an account, you submit certain information.
Yeah.
There's always a way to trace back who owns this particular page.
Right.
And then you can hold them accountable.
Yeah, Pavel, I see you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to say that this is some sort of a regulation. Then if you like the accounts with your image has been used without your consent, that you go after them. You go to the platform and you ask them to remove them. This is the way it is it's done right now. And with deepfakes, I think it's going to be like this. So it's labeled as a deepfake, and it's I mean, for a platform, it's way easier to detect a deepfake. And because there was a very good educational video on how you can spot a deepfake. But the thing is, you have to look for many aspects, many things. Like, when was it uploaded? Like, maybe there are like 1,000 of similar videos you uploaded. So it's not a single person. Probably this is a deepfakes. Probably this is a campaign for like misinformation, etc. So for platform, it's way easier to actually detect it, label it, and then you can actually make a decision. Can I believe it? Is this a right message, or correct advertising, or not? That's the point.
Yeah, you know, we're going to take a short break, and perhaps when we come back, we'll start looking at solutions, right? And we've talked about some of the tools that you can use to detect what is valid content and what isn't. But also, we need to talk about what solutions we need to be putting in place from a legislative point of view and otherwise, right? How do we hold the platforms like Facebook, these social media platforms, accountable? Because essentially, they need to be detecting what's real and what isn't. All that and more on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Media and Society, and this morning we're talking about how AI technology has essentially helped to spread biases and misinformation having emerged, being also a significant issue where we saw news anchor at the SABC, Francis, coming forward on social media in a Facebook video selling investment products by Elon Musk, a video that was a deep fake. Many people having believed that this is a real investment opportunity. So this morning we're talking about how do you spot what is real content and what isn't. And for that, we're joined in studio still by Lungile Msomi, who is a journalist at IT Web, Dr. Nomalanga Mashinini, who is a senior lecturer at the School of Law at Wits University, and via Teams, we're joined by Spumelele Zondi, SABC News presenter and producer at Network, and Pavel Goldman, who's joining us from London. He is the head of artificial intelligence and machine learning at SumSub. Zondi, I'm going to come back to you. We haven't heard your voice in quite a while. What is it then that media personalities, in your view, need to be doing then to protect their likeness being used to dupe people out of their money?
Let's start with legislation that you were speaking about earlier. There was a question on legislation around the world. There's the AI Act in Europe, but what you again, it's looking at things like biometric systems and other systems that can be used, especially when it comes to verification processes. Again, it becomes outdated when you find that it's an act that takes a while to formulate, and then it becomes outdated as technology becomes more advanced. But such things can be added in things like the AI Act that Europe has. And then, for example, you can think about things like the AI white paper in Britain. So those can also help, and you'd hope that there'd be legislation around the world, including in South Africa. There was also a question on whether it can be reported. And yes, it can in theory, but can it in practice?
Yeah.
Because there are quite a number of people who've even gotten friends and family to report certain accounts that have been cloned online. And you find that technology companies don't really act as fast as you think they should.
Yeah.
And damage then gets done, because with that damage being done, where you can even sway political opinion, because if you use a journalist, for example, that can sway political opinion. It can make people vote in a particular way. So in practice, yes, but in theory, yes, but in practice, it doesn't move as fast. I see Pavel wants to respond to that. Go ahead, Pavel.
No, Pavel,
No,
you go ahead.
that, yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, in theory, yes, but in practice, it's always very hard, and the regulation is lagging behind. And the technology, this is a very important point, that those people that create deepfakes for malicious purposes, they do not have to comply, because they don't care about the compliance. They do not care about the regulation. This is a problem. That's why that's easier for them, actually. We can regulate platforms, we can regulate genuine companies, but you can't regulate criminal. This is a problem. It's a very difficult problem to solve, I must say.
Yeah, Pavel, I'm gonna add to that, to the point that you're making. And I'm gonna say, okay, well, it feels like what we're doing right now is we're seeing a battle between AI and humans. And the thing is, once you start talking about AI, people genuinely get frightful, because there's a sense that this machine learning is going to outsmart us even further, and it has real damage. I mean, Zondi talked about what this can do even to political stability, right? So we're in trouble moving forward, correct?
Can I correct you a little bit?
Yeah.
It's not about AI against human. It's like human with AI against human without AI. And this is a problem. And also, we do not regulate AI. We regulate AI systems. So it's not a problem with AI. It's a problem with people who use an AI to create basically bad things. And this is a problem. And it will always be the same. It's just another piece of technology that you can use for whatever, like for bad things, for good things.
Yeah.
And this is a problem.
You know, I was in a room, and I once with like about 200 people in the room, and I asked how many people in the room have actually used ChatGPT, and only about 4 hands came up. I mean, this is what Pavel is saying, right? Pavel is saying the problem isn't AI against humans, it's humans that use AI against humans that don't. So it seems to me that we all need to start learning how to use artificial intelligence, Lungile.
Yeah, no, that's true. I feel like as AI gets better, the only thing that we can use to defeat AI is AI itself. So looking at all these deepfakes, it is very mind-boggling, because technology solves a lot of problems in the world, whether you use it for good or bad.
Yeah.
So in order to solve the problem that we have with deepfakes and all of these sort of synthetic videos, we have to use...
So let's start here, because immediately in a country like South Africa, where you say to solve AI problems, we need to be using AI, right? But in South Africa, when you say artificial intelligence, it sounds like, you know, a developed nation thing, right?
Yeah.
When we're actually not realizing just how accessible AI is. Can we talk about that, Lungile?
It is very accessible. I feel like a lot of people use ChatGPT on a regular basis now, whether it's to type an article, whether it's to type an SMS to a friend. And a lot of the companies that we work for or hear about are using AI to further themselves in what is a growing technology industry globally. And to play catch up, we need to access that, but it all comes back to education. We have to educate.
Let me throw a rock at you for a second, right? Everybody, you say a lot of people are using ChatGPT. The reality is a lot of people aren't, not in South Africa. And let me tell you why I say that. There are also duplications of ChatGPT that aren't even the real ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So give us the link that we go to access real OpenAI.
For OpenAI, you go onto Google and you type OpenAI, ChatGPT, and the first one will either be the sponsored link, which is provided to you from Google, and the second one will be the one that says OpenAI, ChatGPT. That's the one you click on. But now the problem is ChatGPT opened it where people can create their own GPTs. So now you have that sort of problem, which is why I'm saying AI is how we're going to overcome AI. It's just
My head is spinning. I mean, what do we need to be? What's your message to the viewer who's watching right now and heard all of this and think, goodness, what are we supposed to do here?
I think the first thing is to recognize that South Africans, even though they may not be using ChatGPT widely, they have been exposed to artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning, in different forms. I mean, for how long have South Africans had iPhones, even talking about their iPhones on social media? And that is the first point of access that is most closest to all of us. In your cell phone, there is AI. Asking Siri to play a song in your car, that is just AI. When you get into your car and the Maps app tells you your quickest way to home is this route, that's AI. That's all machine learning in play. We've been exposed to it, but we were not aware of just how sophisticated this can become. And that's what deepfakes are teaching us now, that we need to be more in touch and more intentional about how we use AI and how we interact with it, because it's becoming so sophisticated that if we are not careful, then the people who use AI will overthrow democracies because we don't expose ourselves enough to the uses of AI. Because remember, deepfakes also have positive uses in the entertainment industry, in museums and so forth. So it's not that it's all bad media. There is some good to it, and we need to be educated about it.
Sounds like someone's going to take my job. That's what it sounds like, which is frightening. Zondi, I'm going to let you have I'm going to come to Pavel. Then Pavel, have your last bite to, you said it's going to be machine learning, the human with the AI versus the human without it. So how do we start introducing people to AI? How do you have that introduction to say, here's AI as a tool, use it?
Yeah, but I must say that we start not just, using, okay, it's not many people use it, but we can actually tell them, so like how other people use it. So it's like, that AI can be used for these things. And afterwards, you can actually make a decision if it's useful for you or not, or it can be created with AI or not. So I do not create deepfake. Well, we have a small department to create deepfakes, so we can actually then detect them, but I do not create deepfakes myself. But I know how to create them. I know they exist. And then I can actually be, I know that there is a risk, and I can actually do what we have to do. But we have to, education is very vital. I would say that the final, to sum up, I would say that we have to make people actually learn what the capability of AI. And it will be easier for them to actually engage with it.
I think the key message this morning has been start to use technology as much as possible so that you are able to really see when something is real or isn't, because you've got the skill. That's the message from today. Thank you so much to my guest, Lungile Msomu, who is a journalist at IT Web, Dr. Nomalanga Mashinini, a senior lecturer at the School of Law at Wits University, as Phumelele Zondi, SABC News presenter and producer for Network, and Pavel Goldman, the head of artificial intelligence and machine learning at SAMSUB in London. That's how we wrap up Media and Society. Thank you for spending the past hour with us. We're back again next week, Sunday. Have yourselves a great day.